BUA 601. The purpose of this video is to provide you with an introduction and an outline, if you will, to BUA 601 for this fall of 2016. So first thing is I want to introduce myself. My name is Patty Miles. I've been teaching this class about 5 years now, and what I try to do is work you through the class in a way that you can immediately apply to your work-life setting. And so as we go through some of the tenets of the course, hopefully it will be obvious to you sort of how you might apply some of these tools and why it's important to know and understand them. So the first thing you might notice on this slide is that the name of it is Data Analytics for Managers. So we recently did a course name change, and we're changing it to this Data Analytics for Managers. Basically, the material in the course is going to be the same as it has been, but we feel that Data Analytics for Managers better describes what's actually being done in the class. And it's a bigger buzzword these days, so it makes some sense to change the name. So if you haven't done so already, you might want to get out the syllabi that's also posted in Blackboard and kind of read along with me, just so you understand, so we're all on the same sheet of music. So in this class, you're going to learn these basic ideas. So first of all, you're going to learn how to solve business problems using data. In order to do this, you have to be able to locate the data, and it has to be from a reputable source. Then you have to be able to generate some sort of concise communication about these data that you have obtained from wherever. And then you're going to be required to use the problem-solving method to apply all the relevant facts and make some conclusions about the data that you have obtained and the problem that you're trying to solve. This will be done, this final problem-solving assessment will be done under time restraints, in that you'll be given a finite amount of time and be given a complicated problem. And you'll be asked to make a proposal about that problem. And we'll have a lot of opportunities to practice how we do that, but just to kind of set you up for the end. And then finally, you're going to be required to write an editorial, if you will, on what it is you have found. So the audience of your work would be a newspaper, while you will have to do quite a bit of scientific statistical analysis. You'll have to then interpret that, translate that for people to read who might be like reading the Bangor Daily. As well, you'll be required to do a Pecha Kucha presentation, which we'll get into a lot more during the class, but it's a short, concise, picture-driven method of presenting your information. So a lot of students ask me, why do we need to have a class like data analytics in every MBA program? And the short answer is, in today's day and age, you have to be able to make data-driven decisions. You can't just say, I think that this is the answer because that's what I heard or I read it on the internet. No, you have to be able to find reliable data from a reliable source, do some analysis, figure out how to best depict and express it in a PowerPoint slide or whatever, and then be able to use that to inform whatever decisions you're making. So a major aim of this course is really this notion of figuring out how to extract useful data. There's tons of data out there, but it isn't all as useful as perhaps we might like it. As well, when we just draw the data out of some of these big databases, it just is a mess. It's just a whole bunch of numbers. And so our goal here is to turn that into information, as opposed to having it be just numbers. And then finally, in this class, a pretty hefty chunk of this class towards the end will be all about different data analysis tools that you can use to do your data analysis. There's lots of ways to look at a problem, and I'll teach you, several different methods to sort of give you some tools you can work with, but of course, you could do many more. But basic regression, a multi-factor regression, ANOVA, analysis of variance, t-table, or t-tests, at least all of those things you'll have a pretty good mastery of when you finish this class. So another thing I've done for this class is to break it up into 3 modules, and so on Blackboard you'll see these same 3 modules. The first module we're going to learn is statistics, scales, and descriptives, and here we're basically going to learn the terms necessary to do the analysis we'll do later in the class. So we'll learn about parameters and samples and just how to use all those terms and which is what. And then we'll learn how to describe our data using the central limit theorem and others like that. And we'll learn how to graph data. And so all of that's going to happen quickly in the first 3 weeks of this class. And it's critical. You'll have to memorize all these terms so that when I use them, you know what I'm talking about. And when you use them, you know what you're talking about. Now, the second section of this class, or the second module, is called Basic Inference. In the Basic Inference section of this course, we're going to be putting together hypotheses and making some assertions about our data. Then, finally, kind of the art of analysis. So that is going to be where we'll learn all the tools, like I was telling you, the t-test and the ANOVA and the regression model and the dummy variables and the multi-factor regression models. But you can't really do all of that until you have a really good foundation in statistics, scales, and descriptives and basic inference. So in this course, what I've tried to do is break it up in these 3 modules, and you'll need to get everything out of the first module before you really be ready to move on to the second module. Within each module, we'll have 3 parts. We'll have learning, doing, and reflecting. In the learning module, you'll need to read the textbook and you'll need to watch the videos on the text. Each topic that I teach will be covered in a video. So one chapter may have several different videos, but then that way you can go back if you just needed to brush up on one particular thing. Well, you could easily go to that. But the videos do not take the place of reading. You have to read the textbook in this class. And the quizzes that I'll get to in a second, those are designed specifically to make sure that you have read the text. It's critical that you read the text. Okay, second is the doing, practicing, and perfecting. So I believe that the best way to learn is to practice what it is you're doing. So in this class, students will be required to practice the statistical concepts, which in many cases this comes in the format of homework, regular homework problems out of the book. But also, you're going to need to do some activities that will reinforce the topic, and those vary wildly, but will also help you understand the topic that we're talking about. And then finally, reflecting, remembering, and applying. Okay, so in this part of each week, we'll have homework problems that I've mentioned before, as well as a quiz on Blackboard, and the quiz will be designed to make sure that you read and make sure that you did your homework. And believe me, students have grappled with this. On the one hand, they hate having quizzes because they're graduate students, but on the other hand, if I don't have the quiz, then they're afraid they won't actually do the homework. And if you don't actually do the homework, you don't really learn this stuff. You can't just passively learn statistics. And then the final part of the reflecting module is this applying. And so you're going to have a project that you're going to work on throughout this course. And all of the things that we learn with our data in the textbook, you're going to also apply to your own research question. Now, as I said, the course is broken up into these 3 learning modules. We've got statistics, scales, and descriptives, basic inference, and advanced analysis. So within the statistics module, here we'll learn in chapter 1 all about statistics and data, and it's a lot of terms. Isn't the most exciting thing in the world, but very important. And then in chapter 2 we'll get into graphical summary, which we'll do in Excel mostly. And then in chapter 3 we'll learn all the language around describing our samples, the central limit theorem, and much, much more. Basic inference in statistics is sort of how it is that we have a sample that estimates our population that we're talking about, and then how we might create some estimations that would allow us to generate hypotheses. And just understanding how a hypothesis is written and what it means is all sort of confusing and really important. But once you have the hypothesis formulated, then you can move on to the art of analysis. And that's where we get into some of these different analysis methods, ANOVA, regression, dummy variables. This will give us a way to test our hypotheses. And again, every week you're going to be following along with your own data. And so that's why it's so important that you pick a topic that you're interested in, and you obtain your data. So with that as sort of a background, I'm going to ask you one more time to please take a moment to refer to the syllabi that's posted on Blackboard, and make sure that you understand what's expected of you, and that you understand the time requirement and all of the things that we're going to be doing. And I hope you enjoy the course, and by all means, you can always email me and talk to me about questions or problems that you might be having.